cannot, we must not, we will not leave our citizens behind. We're going to be focused on jobs, economic vitality, and bringing Philadelphia back from this economic crisis. We're working every day to make this a safer city. Here in Philadelphia, we know how to get things done. We are sick and tired of being sick and tired about blight and deteriorated properties in this city. Yeah, thanks. I appreciate that. Thanks. All right. Papers. Hi. Okay. Sorry to hold you up. Just a couple updates on a few things over the last couple days. First and foremost is at least some pretty solid information about Made in America Festival. I'll give you an update on that. Today, of course, is first day of school, although you guys have probably been in school a little longer. But public schools, first day of school today. Went to a few of those. Went to a few schools. I'll talk about those, and then if there are other things that you all want to talk about, I'll do my best to answer your questions. So I'm joined here, I think, four of the Pope Five are with us. Chief Inspector Sullivan is out doing what Chief Inspector Sullivan does. But Everett Gillison, Desiree Peterkin-Bell, Giselle Jones, and Sam Phillips are here today, and they are also very actively engaged, of course, in the Made in America Festival as well. So first and foremost, let me thank Jay-Z, Beyonce, and Rock Nation, and all of the artists who performed over the last couple days, Saturday and Sunday, for another very successful Made in America Festival over Labor Day weekend in Philadelphia. It was a sold-out show on both days with even more attendees than in the past, more than 65,000 attendees on Saturday, more than 64,000 on Sunday. Totals were about 130,000 plus, and that two-day attendance is the most for any of the 4 years of Made in America in Philadelphia, and the first time that both days were completely sold out. This year, the festival had even more great features with 5 stages and the inclusion of the title stage, named after the subscription-based music streaming service owned by Jay-Z and Rock Nation. Through this service, the acts at Made in America in Philadelphia were streamed live in 45 countries around the world. Philadelphia is truly on the global stage, and we just keep growing, which we'll, of course, keep doing later on this month. And in keeping with Made in America's commitment to give back to the community in which it's held, there was a cause village that showcased 16 charities that were supported by festival goers. The Sean Carter Foundation, the United Way of Southeastern Pennsylvania and Lancaster, Art Sphere Incentives, the Attic Youth Center, Beyond Type 1, the Bicycle Coalition, Covenant House, Pennsylvania, the NAACP, Red Paw Emergency Relief Team, the Merle Arts Program, Diana's House, Headcount, the Coalition Against Hunger, the Food Trust, Aqua Corps, and Project Home. We thank all of them for their participation, but more importantly, for the services and support that they're going to get from a whole bunch of folks who signed up to help them. I'm very proud that we were able to attract this festival to Philadelphia 4 years ago. And 2 of the folks who were the most involved in that effort were Desiree Peterkin-Bell, our city representative, director of communications and strategy, and Everett Gillison, our chief of staff and deputy mayor for public safety, and then supported by Giselle Jones and Sam Phillips. It's been a success in every respect and a great event for the city of Philadelphia. When we first announced this in 2012 out on the Art Museum steps, was a lot of concern and maybe a little bit of Philly consternation about how we were going to pull off this new ticketed event on the Ben Franklin Parkway. This had never been done before, so the question, of course, was how would we as a city handle it? I think we can now confirm what we said 4 years ago, which was, quote, "We have the infrastructure in place and the institutional experience to manage events of this magnitude on the Parkway, as well as in other parts of the city. We do it all year long, from Wow Wow Welcome America to the Mummers Parade, International Bike Race, Broad Street Run, and so many, many other events in our city. We're the city that knows how to do big events well, and we'll keep doing them well in the months and years ahead." Just a couple of other facts from the Made in America Festival. Gates opened at noon on both Saturday and Sunday, and the show concluded at midnight on Saturday and 11 p.m. on Sunday. Attendance on Saturday was 65,637 and 64,820 on Sunday. Again, the highest attendance figures ever. The new grid signage system, which was expanded on the Ben Franklin Parkway, Deputy Mayor Gillison talked about it before the festival on Friday, helped to improve city delivery services. I'm extremely proud of the team that led the city's efforts and all of our first responders on duty this weekend, police, fire, EMS, but certainly Parks and Recreation, the Streets Department, Licenses and Inspections, and the Health Department, all the city employees who helped to make this event the success that it is. We look forward to another successful Made in America weekend in 2016. Earlier today, as I mentioned, was the official first day of school for public school students in schools that are managed by the school district. Had the opportunity to participate briefly with the Million Man March for Fathers out at the House of Umoja first thing this morning, then on to George Washington Carver High School with Dr. Haidt and SRC Chair Marge Neff and Member Feather Houston for the official bell ringing and opening of school. George Washington Carver High School has now expanded to 7th and 8th grade, and they have a new special program starting on Saturdays directed at both Carver students, 7th and 8th graders, and kids in the neighborhood for a STEM Saturday program and activity. Then on to Strawberry Mansion High School, over to Duckery, and then over to Tilden, where met with the principal and had a very quick lunch with students at Tilden. With that, why don't I try to take any of the questions that you might have? It was certainly, again, for MIA over the weekend, a very successful and peaceful event with all the folks participating, 130,000 folks over the course of the weekend, and it was a whole lot of fun. Bruce.
Mayor, what if, understanding that the April event could be in the neighborhood of 20 times bigger crowd, what, if anything, did you feel like you learned from MIA that helps inform the decisions you'll make for the Papal visit, given the ticketing, security, fencing, and so forth?
Well, I mean, there are certainly some similarities between these events, but again, as the first part of your question is, the Papal visit was the Festival of Families or the Mass, certainly much larger than the MIA event. The security, at least in the most secure zone, will be obviously different than the Made in America event. We don't have the Secret Service out with magnetometers at the Papal event. I think we need to be mindful of the fact that, late September in Philadelphia, you can still be faced with, pretty decent weather challenges, especially from a temperature standpoint. So, one of the things, and we've had this experience in the past, so not necessarily off of just, a couple of days ago, but certainly making sure that there are, significant water access facilities. Two of our public employees created something. One had actually done it before, but it wasn't used for some reason. But we used it over the weekend, and one device was literally created from Saturday night into Sunday, which were basically kind of portable water fountains. We had kind of water stations where people could refill their bottles. They were in, some set places. But I think that that innovation, quite frankly, literally made overnight by the Water Department is quite interesting, and I want to commend those folks who were involved in that effort. We have to think about location. Again, different kind of crowd. As I said, I think to one of the reporters, we're not necessarily expecting as much, non-water beverage consumption at the papal visit as we may have experienced at MIA. But nonetheless, folks are going to be out for a pretty decent number of hours. In many instances, they're going to be standing. It could be rather warm. And so the larger issue is making sure that we strategically place as much, water, medical tents, and the like around the, Francis Festival grounds as possible. There was, quite honestly, I experienced this. I hadn't thought about this, quite frankly, too much until I was out in it. I guess we haven't had much rain recently, and much of the area is either grass or grass and dirt. So, not to the point where it gets messy, but probably if we had the same kind of experience later this month, I expect that we'd kind of wet the areas down, maybe very, very early in the morning, just to keep, some of that dust down. And dust has an impact on folks, well, on anybody. But certainly if you have respiratory challenges, it makes it that much worse. Those are some of the probably smaller things. Crowd.
Wi-Fi issues that were pretty significant.
So I don't have any of that information. I keep hearing from you all. I don't know, whether this was actual, attendees or whether these were journalists who were having these issues. We don't have any level of reports indicating that there were issues or challenges out there. I made any number of phone calls out on the grounds, but again, I would say to you that I was in my car just a little while ago. I was coming around City Hall. My call dropped. It's just technology is not perfect. Nonetheless, I think those are really discussions that are probably better had with, just to name a few, and I'm not trying to advertise them, but they're the rather obvious ones. It's AT&T, Verizon, T-Mobile, Sprint, whoever else are the, but I think those are kind of the big four in terms of carriers. I think you would probably, get more detailed information from them. It's their service, it's not ours. It's not like we're out stringing, wire or copper or fiber, whatever the current technology is. We obviously want to have great service, but I think you're going to get your best answers on those kinds of issues from the actual carriers. We don't have any, it's not like folks were calling us to say my phone's not working, but on any given day, folks are usually not calling the city saying they have a problem with their carrier. You should, if you have a problem with your cell phone, you should probably call your carrier. Yeah, Pat? Yeah, and we are. That was that was Saturday and Sunday. Today's Tuesday. Our folks are taking a look at whatever information we may have had. I don't have any data to indicate anything at the moment, and we want our folks also to talk to the carriers to see what their experience was as well. But certainly it's something that we wanted to take a look at. But again, I want to help everyone understand this. We all love the Pope, and we're excited about the Pope coming here. But we look at cell service for all the big events that take place. So our looking at cell service for MIA is not something new or specifically related to the fact that we're going to have a papal visit. We would do that anyway, just because we want to know. Yeah.
And is the Commerce Department also looking at the economic impact
Of.
MIA?
Yeah, we will. It's kind of like, I know in the past we've talked about, given the size of it, probably about a $10 million impact from MIA. But we'd know better in a couple months when we see receipt data come in for, I guess, September. So, I mean, we're not going to know 3 days after the thing how much actually came in. No one's reported anything. Yes, ma'am. Yeah, so you should call Verizon or AT&T or Sprint or T-Mobile and ask them what they plan to do to enhance service for their customers who might be coming to Philadelphia for the papal visit. I mean, I am nowhere near, a cell phone expert. It's either more towers or what we call, sometimes they call cell on wheels, which the acronym for that is CAL. I mean, I don't make these things up. But I think you'd have a better conversation with the actual cell phone carriers as to what steps, what actions, what equipment, what enhancements they would bring to such an event, which I know all of them want to support. But, I mean, it's nowhere near a level of expertise for me. I have a cell phone like everybody else. Hope it works every day. Yeah. Well, so again, I have no idea who you talk to, or, I mean, that people, if they have a problem, they automatically call the news media to tell them that they're having cell phone problems, or maybe you were out asking people about it. I saw a pretty significant amount of Twitter and other social media activity out there. So I know sometimes, again, in the course of any day, I've tried to put something up on Twitter without 50,000 people around, and sometimes it goes and sometimes it doesn't. So, it's kind of what happens with technology. Having said that, we will work with the carriers about their systems. We don't run them, we don't own them, we don't operate them, but we do want them to work. So, again, I would strongly encourage you to talk to the carriers about specific steps that they would take to boost or enhance service. That's really a technical issue. Tommy? Tommy?
What is the weather contingency for the papal visit? If there's, a year ago, you had Clear Parkway for MIA when you had thunderstorms.
Yeah. Yep.
What happens if that happens the day of the papal visit?
Well, I mean, I think a little bit of tongue-in-cheek last week when I was asked about this. I mean, we've gotten every indication from the Vatican that Pope Francis has cleared that weekend from a weather event standpoint. On the other hand, which we will rely on his decree. Obviously, as best I know, this is a rain or shine event. But if there were some severe weather event, and we could anticipate that, and would see something like that coming, which we're always monitoring, the weather all 4 seasons, we would have to either know that something pretty significant was going to happen over that weekend and get information out, as we do for all the other severe weather events here, or if it was, a chance of something, but it's not clear that it's happening, and all of a sudden you run into that situation, we would have a contingency plan for making sure that people were safe, and if it is similar to what you mentioned on MIA, if it was that bad, obviously we'd have to evacuate because we want folks to be safe. But we'll. Office of Emergency Management has a variety of plans for all kinds of, events. Obviously, this is a pretty unique one, but certainly that kind of plan will be in place for what to do if lightning, thunder, I mean, that's about the only 2 things I think that could happen other than a hurricane. I don't know if we're still in that season at that part of September. But all indications seem to be that, I mean, we're going to have pretty clear skies and clear weather. Yes? I can check on that.
SEPTA announced plans to open up more subway stations today to try and get people to move
I think Subway and L.
through the city. Does
Yeah.
that change perhaps where we can allow more people to park to get into the city? Will stadium parking be opened up, but now they can take advantage of those subway lines to Mark Frankfurt or take the Broad Street line to come in?
So I can't speak to the stadium aspect of this. I think the main thing with the both additional station stops on both Broad Street and the Market Frankfurt L is also designed not only to, give people more access points, but also they get additional exit points. So whether it's 30th Street, and, we can get you the information, although I think I think one of the papers printed on the map some walking distances. I mean, obviously, 30th Street is pretty close to the Ben Franklin Parkway. 8th and Market, I think, is now one of the additional locations. That puts you a block or two from the Independence Hall site. The Broad Street subway, again, if I'm remembering, Spring Garden Street and Walnut Locust on the Broad Street axis, I mean, puts you that much closer. So, I mean, I think SEPTA is right when they say, pretty much no one gets you closer. If you use mass transit, from a vehicle standpoint, from something taking you somewhere, those two lines and additional exit points are going to get you pretty close to anywhere that you would want to be, and then literally, at least with the 8th and Market, I mean, it's like a 2-block walk. And there'll be, there will be additional announcements, I guess, beyond the limited details that I've shared in response to your question. We expect that we'll have a broader series of announcements about SEPTA activity and others later on this week. Bruce.
10,000, being a family site, put up 10,000 free public access tickets for the Independence Hall event today.
Yeah.
They were distributed inside of 2 minutes. Within a
Wow.
matter of other minutes, they're already up on eBay for a couple $100 or more per ticket. Your thoughts?
I mean, I think that's pretty ignorant, to be honest. So these are free tickets to hear the Pope speak on at least I think he may speak about any number of things. The one I remember is immigration. I think it's immigration and something else. Right. So Pope Francis comes to Philadelphia to speak on, at least at that location, immigration and religious freedom. You get a free ticket and then throw it up on a site to try to sell it. I mean, that's in, at least in the neighborhood where I grew up, I mean, that's trifling. It's just trifling. And I would hope that, for all that many, many people are going through, and, whether you live in West Philly or, live in West Virginia, if you're trying to get here and you legitimately want to be a part of this experience and, that tons of folks would like to have for whatever reason, I mean, I just think, I mean, that's just wrong. But, I mean, no one's asked me that. I mean, so I gave you my immediate response. I'm sure the folks behind me probably all dropped their heads down when I said that. But, you asked and I answered. So, last question. Julia.
This might be coming later, but do you have any updates on where people within the secure vehicle perimeter may be able to park, and when the city might have to start showing later?
So on both of those components, as a part of, we've pretty much been having the weekly pressers. That's an issue that I will address at that time. I've said before, of course, that we've been working with any number of parking lots, whether surface or multi-level, to help folks with that relocation. And our preference, obviously, is that folks relocate their vehicle on their own. That's the best solution in that regard. So we're quite honestly hoping for more of, personal owner relocation as opposed to, kind of engagement with us. But I'll have more details about that later in the week. All right. Thank you all so very much. The only reason you all are not in school is because you are interns in my office, correct? Very good. All right. I'm just checking. Good seeing you all. Thanks a lot.